The book we call the Holy Bible is still one of the most widely read and distributed pieces of literature in the English language. But what exactly is the Bible, and how should we understand its contents? I'm Pastor Chris White, and that's my assignment over the course of this series, what you should know about the Bible. In the last three installments, we've considered the question, what is the nature of the contents of the Bible? This, we learned, is called special revelation. It is God's specific disclosure of Himself and plan that is given through prophets and teachers and culminates in the person and teaching of Jesus Christ. In this video, we will build on this idea by looking at the inspiration of the Bible. In theological terms, a book that is inspired has nothing to do with its power to be inspirational to our minds. It means that God's exact words were being recorded in the writing, even though human beings were involved in the process. Well, how does this actually work? It might be surprising to find the answers actually found in the Bible. 2 Timothy 3:16 teaches us that the Bible is inspired, or more literally, God-breathed. There are several theories on how this happened. Some are quite insufficient according to the biblical data, while others seem to be closer to the mark. An example of an insufficient explanation is what we know as the mechanical dictation theory. This is the idea that God literally took over the writing hand of the author and He dictated the message. Actually, such a thing would not be impossible for God to do, but it would mean all the differences in style in Bible writings are not from the human element, but from God Himself. But in writing, there are varieties of style and voice, and the Bible has all the marks of multiple human authors expressing these. If the Bible were mechanically dictated, and the authors were nothing more than human writing implements, one would expect to see a uniformity to the books of the Bible. Another theory that is insufficient, but at least closer to the mark, is called dynamic inspiration. This would say that God directed the thoughts and concepts of the biblical authors, but gave them freedom to write them in their own words. This breaks down when Paul or Jesus both based their teachings on the very exact wording of Scripture. It would seem from this that very exact words were expressed on purpose, not just broad concepts. This leads me to the theory that seems best to fit the contents of Scripture, and has the broadest consensus of biblical scholars throughout history. This is the verbal theory of inspiration. Like the dynamic theory, God guided the thoughts and ideas of the author, but then He also guided their selection of the phrases and actual words. There's not a separation of God and the human element in our view of Scripture, but rather a view rightfully called concursus, or writing side by side together. God and the authors of Scripture wrote together in such a way that the end product was God's desired message. This would certainly entail more than just the moment of writing, but a providential shaping of the author, his vocabulary, even the types of literature he read and the life experiences he had. But these elements all come together under God's guiding hand to eventually put down His select message. Once again, many books in the world are inspiring, meaning they have an effect on the reader as to turn his mind to God or at least higher ideals. But to be an inspiring book is not the same as to be an inspired book. Christians believe the Holy Bible alone is the only collection of literature that is God-breathed. The Bible is important because it is inspiring and because it is inspired by God. It rightly should have authority over our lives. In a world that is stumbling in the dark, the believer has a light for his path, and walking by that light is the very essence of true Christianity. In our next video, we'll move from the topic of inspiration to the topic of canonicity, which answers the question, why these books were included and not others. I hope you'll come back. Until then, this is Chris White. Thanks for watching.